Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Check Your Six podcast. It's me, Warlocker Call, your host once again, joined by co host Syntax GG over on that side. And today we actually have a special guest tonight. We have Tanner from ASU Esports, the captain, and he's got quite the long history in esports. So I'm looking forward to diving into his history. But welcome to the show, Tanner.
Very nice to be here. Pretty excited for it.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a great way for us to kick off the season because, well, we don't have a whole bunch of stats to go off of. One of the other leagues hasn't started, and so we've got week one of the CEA Open League or Invite League, sorry, Open League results to go over. We'll go over some of them. There's 56 matches, so we're not going to dive into all of the matches, but we've got week one under our belt. We've got a guest to talk about his experience. We've got, and it's even outside of just Rainbow Six Siege. So this is also kind of a bit of a story to go into. And we've got a message from Tanner's opposite captain from CU Boulder, who was their first matchup last week in CEA. So we're going to go into Tanner Stark's history of how he got into ASU as the new IGL. So, tell us how you got started in esports and what brought you to collegiate Rainbow Six.
Yeah, so my road in my esports road is pretty long. Hopefully, it keeps going for a while. But I started back in Call of Duty. I first started doing competitive in Call of Duty back in Call of Duty Ghost, and towards Advanced Warfare, I transitioned to Xbox and started doing competitive, going to tournaments. Like UMG Ontario was one of them. And I started doing that semi-professionally, placed top 16 at one LAN event. Then shortly after that, I decided to quit the game. And I think around that time of Call of Duty, I know Rainbow Six, but Call of Duty, around that time, people started quitting because jetpacks and everything like that, if you remember around that time. So I decided to step back from Call of Duty, and a game that I played in beta was Rainbow Six, and I liked it, so I wanted to play that. So I was playing console at that time. I was playing Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. So I was playing all three platforms. I preferred console because I played Call of Duty on console, so it's just something I was better at. PC, I've always been not the same as console. Someone who comes from console probably has the same feeling.
Yeah.
So then I go and I quit. Then I decided I wanted to come back for Black Ops 3, but then they changed it to 18 plus, and at that time I was not 18. So I decided to do organizational stuff. I started working for organizations. I worked for several different organizations around that time, all around the Call of Duty field, because I wanted to, as I was a competitive player, I wanted to kind of learn how they do things so I could get paid more. Everyone wants to get paid more in esports, so you try to get an edge. And I fell in love with that. So I started playing Siege casually and doing that type of stuff. Then fast forward a bit, I just play Siege, do org stuff as jobs. Then towards the end of 2017 and early 2018, I decided to create my own organization. I found investors, and I raised funds. And at this time, I was still underage, right? At 17, I did this. I raised funds, and I started a notable Rainbow Six Siege organization called Disrupt Gaming. And my focus for Disrupt was always going to be a content base, because growing up, it was always, if people watch it, you have Optic Gaming and FaZe Clan, and they were always.
I knew I recognized your name. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
I knew I recognized your name. I was like, I knew that name from somewhere, but now I know.
Yeah. So I founded Disrupt Gaming, and I just want to make a splash. I'm like, there's only one way to do it. You gotta make a splash, and no one's really making a splash at that time. Space Station wasn't really making a splash. No one was really making a splash in terms of content. So I went and I signed the biggest content creators that I could. I went after Bolo. He was one of our early ones. Yo Boy Roy was one of our first ones. We just wanted to build a huge community. And we signed a Challenger League team at that time with Skittles, when he was competing, Ghost, Solo, um, a whole bunch of guys, right? And we actually had a chance to get a Pro League team, which is now Space Station's team, with Bosco and all them. We had a chance when they were available, and decided not to, because we always decided that it would be best if we just stuck with one team, and fall through. Because around that time as well, in esports, there's a lot of organizations like Era that were not paying their players, and
Right.
they just kept jumping and things like that. And I've always wanted to build a foundation, a pillar of trustworthiness and paying people, and, like they said. So we just stuck with our team, and people have always said with Disrupt, why aren't you guys in Pro League sooner? Why aren't you doing this? And we've had plethora of opportunities, but we wanted to earn it as well as stick with our people. We've always wanted to believe in that.
I have to appreciate that. I have to appreciate that approach a lot, because I mean, you have a lot of the esports teams nowadays, even still, they are constantly raising funds just to keep going, to be able to get that next team, get that next sign, keep going, keep going, keep going, and it's just an endless, thankless treadmill there, while you have teams like Cloud9 who have a huge outsourced department of labor and everything, but they keep it all really tight. Like, they don't outspend their means, and they don't have to go through and do a whole bunch of fundraising and everything. So I respect your approach a lot with Disrupt Gaming, not wanting to sign team after team after team and just be like, we're gonna sell ourselves out left, right, and center just to be able to support it.
Mm-hmm. And you have to know when to expand too. And a lot of things too is people don't realize people think Disrupt was only ever in Siege. We've had a top Call of Duty team with ex-pros. We've also had a Pro Gears of War roster. We've been in other titles, but one game that I've always wanted to stick in was Rainbow Six Siege, because it's a game that I fell in love with, in beta when I first started playing it. So then, everyone, I think where everyone really started in the comp scene, really started learning about Disrupt, was DreamHack, whenever we beat Evil Geniuses. And at that time, Evil Geniuses was the best team in NA, and we beat them at DreamHack. We fell to them later on, but it was a pretty big accomplishment. So we did a throw together team of our underage team with Yaga, who is now in Challenger League, Dot Dash, who is a Mexican Pro League. We had Skittles. We had Ghost, who is in Challenger League, and we have and Hyper was on that team too, who's on Dark Zero. And that team was talented. I think if that team could have played in Challenger League, if there was no 18+ rule or anything like that, that team probably would have made Pro League. That team was tremendously talented, and it just sucks. And it was funny, as a quick little side note, after that event, DreamHack changed the rules to 18+. So, like, there was no Siege events after that were under 18, which was funny that we were able to do that. But after that, we decided to just keep growing and build a roster. I think the roster after that was with Remorse and Spades and Modiga, and that excelled with Gotcha and all that. But after that, fast forward, to last year, about a year and a half ago, I decided to step down as CEO of Disrupt, and sell out and leave, because of personal reasons happening in my life. I was finishing high school. I had a torn patellar tendon. I was caring for my father, who has disease. So I was not able to give this company that I built and put my heart into 24/7 that it deserved. So I thought that would be best, to step back.
Yeah, that's completely understandable.
For all the reasons to back away and not be like incredibly just into your own stuff, like that is all the human reasons anyone could understand. Like, kudos to you. I mean, you were just getting out of high school.
Yeah, I was finishing high school. I turned
Come
18.
on.
Yeah, I created when I was 17, And a lot of people ask me too. Like, Disrupt was the favorite thing I've ever done, but it wasn't the most successful thing I've ever done. After Disrupt, I did a lot of other things that I found more success in, but it was probably the most fun I've had. Going to events, meeting people, talking with people. I love doing content. It was so fun and stressful too. Like, 1 month I was like, we're going to upload every day for 30 days on YouTube. It was hard to pull off, but we did it. In that month, I think we gained like 15,000 subscribers.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it was hard, but it was fun. That stuff is fun. So fast forward to where I'm at now. I was friends with Baka, who is now plays for Team Oblivion and CACL. And he before that played for ASU's team. And they went to DreamHack. They played, they were quite successful, one of the top teams in collegiate. And I saw that Faceit was announced a $30,000 prize pool collegiate league. They showed interest in wanting to grow the collegiate side of Rainbow Six. And I was like, well, I haven't played comp in a while. I might as well get back into it. I contacted, Brian, and asked him, and he was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't have time because of Challenge League. And he put me in the direction of Zerfon, who was the head of the Rainbow Six department and former member of the team. And we got to talking. I got talking with Jake, the president of the ASU club, ASU Esport Club. And from there, I went and I started talking to him and saying, hey, I'll help you guys in any way I can. I have contacts from, my previous time at Disrupt and esports and things I've done to help you guys grow your club and help sponsors or help any way I possibly can. But I also want to play Siege. It's something that since the beginning I just love competing, and I love Siege, and I wanted to be able to do that. So I became captain of the team, and now we're here.
I'm assuming that means you're good at the game.
I'm all right at the game. I before that, so right after, about 4 months after I was done with Disrupt, one of my good friends, Janon, who was pro for about 4 or 5 seasons, he and me, we were creating a team together. We had a couple other pros on our team, ex-pros, Sour, and Senses. And then we had, another guy who wasn't pro, who was just coming up, a young gunner. And we were going to go for Challenge League, and I think we could have made Challenge League. But for the reasons I left Disrupt, I, had to leave that team because I couldn't fully commit to the time restrictions. It's tough, during that time. Having a team going for Challenge League, there's constant scrimming and things like that you have to do.
You're pretty much pro. Like, and even then you have to work even harder.
Yeah, you have to work harder because they're there and they're getting paid to be in their team house and scrim and play the game, and you're not getting paid to do that, and you still have to put in the time to get better. So it's just a hard thing to do.
Yeah, out of all the things you've done, which are amazing things for how old you are, I think the most incredible thing that you've accomplished was the fact that you managed to not just convince one, but multiple people to give a 16, 17-year-old kid a bunch of money to start a company.
I tell people that. They're like, I get asked all the time when I tell the story. They're like, how did you commit? And I tell them how much I raised. And they're like, how did you do that? How did you convince grown adults?
You must have one hell of a pitch.
Yeah, my investors were both 35 at the time, the two of them. And they're like, how did you do that? And I was like, honestly, I think it's because I just believed in myself so much. I tell people all the time that you just gotta believe in yourself, and that resonates with people. If they see that, you fully believe in yourself and believe in what you're doing, that goes to someone else.
Yeah, confidence
they can
is key.
see that. Yeah, and I honestly, to this day, I'm like, I don't know how I did it. But yeah, and then a little after that, so around the ASU collegiate time, when I saw that, I became captain of the team. Tryouts weren't for a couple months. So then I saw CACL were doing qualifications. So I built a team with 4 people that were previously in Challenger League for the CACL quals. Grinded for that. So the past couple months I've been just scrimming Tier 1 NAL Pro League teams and USCL teams every day. Some days twice a day. And we're grinding for that, get ready for that. going into our, and this goes into our match last week against CU Boulder. That day I had 2 different scrims that I did prior to our match. So I was really tired going into that match. And our team, we never dry ran and we never played together. I played with 2 of them before in my life. The other 2 I've never talked to. So, I missed tryouts. Like I was watching the VODs and, I helped Zerfon. We made the decision together. I was watching VODs, doing all that. But I couldn't physically be there because, my other team obligation at the time. But going into that, it was kind of hard because A, I'm tired and I'm supposed to be IGLing this team. Sorry, that was my timer. And then B, we have never played together. And, people on the roster didn't really play together that much.
Yeah, you had, 3 people new to the roster?
Yeah, 3 people new to the roster, including me. And in the team dynamic, so from the previous year with the 2 people that were returning this year, that team's playstyle was way different from our playstyle. It was different meta. So it was very hard. And it took us a couple rounds to find our footing. But, we made mistakes. But, going to our next match, we're taking a lot more serious and we're dry running a lot more. We're, scrimming a lot more, and we could go into breaking down that match too.
Yeah, let's go and do that. But I do want to, we're gonna hear a message from the other team captain from CU Boulder. So let me play that real quick.
Name is Olvin. I am the captain for the CU Boulder Black team. I was just asked to give some insight to the ASU game that happened in the first week of CEA Invite. And I mean, all things considered, I think both teams played really well for the situation that was at hand. Both teams had roster changes going on. I think ASU had 3, and we had 2 of our own in Heckle and Milk. And Milk is even our new IGL, so I mean that's even more of a change, I guess. But I think because of that, neither team really had the proper time that we wanted to prepare. I mean, especially getting matched up against each other. I mean, we're not, neither of us are easy teams, but I'm still proud of the way we played, and I know that we can learn from this game and all of our games going forward. That we can do some great things and get some wins under our belt.
So, as Olvin said, they had a new IGL and 1 new member, so their roster only changed up 2 spots, but losing and gaining a new IGL, that's a big shift, as I'm sure your team can speak towards, as you had 3 new people, including yourself, as the IGL. But to end the match in a tie, a 1-1 tie, against CU Boulder, CU Boulder is not a slouch of a team by any means, and replacing 2 members of their team is a bit of a setback, but you still have to rely on everyone's in-game knowledge, and you still have 3 people who are used to working together. And ASU, you've proved that your team also has similar, if not the same, level of in-game knowledge, and we're just at a point of both teams getting used to their new rosters. So, I mean, you heard what Olvin said. What do you think about the matchup and how that went?
Yeah, I mean, that team is very talented. Going into that matchup, I didn't follow Collegiate as much, but from Zerfon and other people in Collegiate, that team's core, the 3 of them have been together for a while. I heard it's something like 1 or 2 years. And they're tremendously talented, and I think for having 2 members, you couldn't really tell because they worked very well together. They had great strats, and they were a great team. I think they're the more that they play together and the more the season goes on, I think they're going to be very tremendous. I think they're going to be a top team up there. And for that match, they're very good at exploiting weaknesses. And we went First map was Villa, and I think we started off 0-3. We were down 3 rounds off the bat, and I was trying to IGL and give out some defensive strats, and it's very hard on the fly, trying to micromanage and put everyone in different positions if they never seen it or never done it before. And then after that third round, I was kind of like, I can't really do that. Let's just do default stuff that everyone kind of knows, and then maybe I'll just IGL and pull out some stuff and tell people to rotate. Because the way that I had it, I was like, we're not gonna win like this. This team is too organized, and we don't really know what we're doing yet. We don't have our footing. We've never played together. So what we could do is do default stuff and kind of rely on communication. In my opinion, in Siege, if you have great communication, your team will excel in the long run. That's what we went to rely on, and we kind of pivoted and went to that, and then we started gaining some rounds back. And that team is very amazing with their strats, especially on defense, what they do and their holds. And you can tell they have good communication. But what we really relied on and helped us get advantage was more of teamwork on attack and gun skill. Mainly, we had to rely on that because we didn't have anything else to fall back on. We were in a tough position with not having enough prep time together or anything going into that match, where we can't really rely on strats or positioning, key fundamentals.
And as a IGL, you got to feel good about that outcome. I mean, you guys were able to switch your strategy mid-game, go back to fundamental gameplay, and then your team was able to trust you on that call. You were able to get them. They understood their role. They named you IGL. They were willing to listen to you, even though they hadn't played with you, even though they had 2 new members who, everyone's chemistry hadn't really been figured out. You were able to figure that out after just a few rounds. Your team was able to follow through, and you were able to follow through on foundational aspects of Rainbow Six. Like, that's got to be a good way to open the league. Sure, a W would have been better, of course, but like Olven said, it was unfortunate that your 2 teams had to be matched up at first, because 2 strong teams out the gate who have proven themselves season after season, even with roster changes. Whatever you've maintained, I found that even some roster changes, unless you're changing the core of it, like 4 people all at once, you can still retain a bit of that momentum or some of that history that you had from the previous season, which I'm seeing from both CU Boulder and ASU just from this one match and how you matched up so closely. So I'm excited to hear about the prospects coming from each team.
Yeah, and I, like you said, I was tremendously, happy for how we did, with the prep time and being able to have, there's a lot to work with my teammates, just being able to trust, in a call. If I call something that they've never even seen before and they trust me into trying it, then it works out, and we had a lot of chances to win both matchups, and get a win or, a partial win. Map 1, we got up 6-4. We went 4-2 on our attacks on Villa, and I think if that game went to overtime, the first map, I think we would have won with our momentum. But going 6-6 and drawing, I think we did very well. We got up 6-4 and we just couldn't close out. There's a few rounds there that we could have closed out, and I think it went to a 1v1 or something, and we just couldn't finish. But I'm really happy, especially with that map 1 showing. Villa is one of those maps too that are very strat heavy. Both the maps we played, Clubhouse and Villa, are more of a strat heavy map. It's not like we're playing a coastline or a consulate that relies more on frags. So I was happy, and what there could have, the better outcome could have been winning, but that was still a great outcome in my books. And in my books, I think that's a win. Being able to draw against a team like that.
And something that we saw in the Pro League, specifically from the teams who had just qualified into the Pro League, Syntax and I had noticed this several times last season, where the teams who qualified into the Pro League, they usually started the season really strong, until the other teams got more footage, more experience, and more matches against them. And those heavy aggressive run and gunners, like really aggressive gunplay teams, they ran out of mustard. Like at the near the end of the season, they couldn't keep up. So I have to take that as a positive bit for your team in that you didn't just revert back to relying on the gun skills. Like you went back to it as part of that foundation play, but you didn't let the gun skill overlap or overtake your foundation map strats. You're as on defense and attack. Like you just didn't go back to like, okay, now we're playing COD and just go 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 go. So I mean that's also a great thing to take away. Was there any other bits that you feel like your team took away from that match, and what was the post match kind of feeling afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, when we're done with that, we were all happy. You know, we were happy that in such short time we were able to draw against a team like Boulder that they have 3 core, and they got 2 new members and a new IGL, but that core is something that we don't have really. We have 2 members, and having 2 members from a previous team isn't really the same as having 3, in my opinion. Because it's easier, in my opinion, from my comp experience, it's easier to put 1 guy into a roster or 2 guys in a roster than having 3, because basically it's a new roster at that point.
Yeah, it's a majority.
Yeah, it's a majority. That's why 3/5 is kind of the rule there for Face It, for roster changes. So it's something that we're very excited for this season, because having that tough matchup, and I think our next matchup is another tough matchup, but having that tough matchup week 1 and being able to draw both maps just shows sky's the limit of what we could do, especially with time. For the rest of this season and going into Face It preseason and regular season in January.
Yeah, that match really did definitely gauge your guys' potential. Especially, like you said, playing against Boulder, who's a really good team. I've played. When I was still playing for A&M back in the day, we played Olvin's team a couple times, so he's been playing for a while. Him and his guys, and they're a really good team, and we scrimmed against them a bunch of times. So the fact that you guys were able to go and tie against them with 3 whole new players is pretty good.
Yeah. And so, like I said, there's nothing but upside from here on. Just got to put the commitment in and we'll be good.
Now, I mean, obviously you have a lot of experience around esports. How do you feel like your experience is going to be able to benefit not just your Rainbow Six squad, but like ASU in general? Because I mean, you rarely hear about someone going pro to college. Like there was a Philadelphia Fusion player who now is like a coach at one of the colleges out east. I forget. I think Maryville. I don't remember. But like, you rarely hear about pros going back to college unless they're like really old, really young, and but usually not from the organizational side. Usually they were a competitor, and here you are, like former CEO coming back to college and going to ASU, which honestly, until this last year, they were not big proponents of their esports club, despite being like the largest online community in the country for a college. So like it wasn't exactly friendly territory for to be going in there. So I'm curious what the reception was like and how you feel like you're going to benefit ASU and how they're going to benefit from you.
Yeah, so I'm about to turn 20. And when I was finishing high school, I wasn't really planning on going to college, right? But before esports, because I just wanted to just do business and disrupt and continue to grow that. But, things change, in life. Can't foresee it all. But one thing that's always been constant since I was younger was I want to be a doctor. So that's part of the reason I wanted to go to ASU. My degree is in medical studies with MD/DO. It's a great program that ASU offers. I don't know how many schools actually offer it. One thing that's cool about it is the MCAT training. They offer, $10,000 worth of training, basically, people pay for from private tutors and such. To prepare for the MCAT, and that's free, and there's a whole bunch of other advantages. And that's one thing that drew me to ASU. And so going there and seeing that, and I learned more and more about the esports side of it, and I learned that ASU is not really sponsoring them as much, and up until recently, and not really diving into it. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, it's the largest club on campus. Like, ASU Esports is the largest club on campus, and you look at Grand Canyon University, where they have full funding. They have facilities. They have a whole bunch of, just the entire university is backing them so much.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that's just nuts to me. I'm like,
That must
ASU
be
needs
nice.
to hop on the train of this, because I'm like, why would you not? Esports is the future. There's so many, you have NBA teams now that are owning franchises for the 2K League. You have
Yep.
so many people getting into this. You have so many different billionaire executives, got into esports recently,
Do you
the last
wanna
couple
know-
of years,
You want to know why a lot of colleges aren't back in their esports programs?
because they don't
I'd
believe
love to
in
know
it.
why.
It's because the people that run the colleges are the people who refuse to believe that the one thing that they have taught their kids to try and hate is actually
Oh, yeah.
becoming a viable business.
Yeah.
And they're in denial. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of the older generation that doesn't believe in this technology stuff and the way that's going, because 10 years ago, when people talked about gaming, it was, the stereotype was a fat kid in his mom's basement not doing anything like that. That was a stereotype. And
Yep.
it's crazy, because you look at a lot of these esports athletes, they go to the gym a lot. They're healthy, and they're active, and you have streaming, which is a new mainstream thing. You have professionals, athletes in football or baseball or NBA that are playing with these esports athletes, and making it more mainstream. And then you have huge companies getting into it now.
You even have freaking sports psychologists now getting into
Yeah.
esports, getting attached to teams and getting paid by organizations to be their team psychologist.
Yep.
At ASU, we have a sports psychologist for
Oh,
our
wow.
for our club, and he helps us a lot with our Rainbow Six team as well. And that's something that I'm grateful for as well. And I think that's something that's very cool. I think that's something that can very help people.
Exactly. And I mean, there's other cases of faculty like that helping out the esports club, but not because of any association of the club to like the sports department, athletics department, or anything like that. It's because that faculty member actually believes, which is the insane bit. And like, there's so many cases of an individual faculty being the sponsor and putting up their own personal time to be the club coordinator, to act as that facilitator between the club and the campus, and making sure that none of the campus laws or bylaws are being broken, and make sure all the student body laws are also being adhered to, and making sure that there's guidance for the students, that there's a safety net for the decisions that they're making, essentially. But like, once colleges really start getting into it and start seeing the relationship between how their athletics departments can actually benefit their esports departments, and any of those schools that had started a program, who started investing in their program, are seeing crazy return right now, when there's tons of teams and sports that are being canceled because of COVID and everything. Like, out east, there was a college that canceled 10 different teams. Those men and women's, like, swimming and lacrosse, and like, not your most popular sports by any means, not the ones that make colleges a whole bunch of money. Excuse me. But you're still canceling all those athletics, and I don't know if they got to keep their scholarships or anything, but all that funding, it's hard and it's rare to hear of. But some colleges have actually taken money that was earmarked for those teams and shuffled it over to their esports teams. St. Clair College up in Canada just announced their like 15,000 square foot dedicated esports arena and facility. That is more than just come sit here and play games. It is legit for collegiate esport development. ASU could easily afford something like that. They are a premier competitive school in the States. The fact that they're lagging this far behind as a Division I school still shocks me.
Yeah, I mean, in the next 3 to 5 years, you'll start seeing mainstream, most colleges, I think, in the U.S. and Canada, adapt esports and invest into it. And they're going to have to go deep into it too, because what's gonna make someone want to go to your college instead of try to go pro? Because it's not like other sports where you could just go pro. I'm not I'm not going from high school to the NBA anymore. I'm not going NFL to college. You have to, is a main thing that you have to do now to get into professional world. Esports isn't like that. So they're going to have to offer development stuff, full ride scholarships, and then actually dive money into it, and actually allow them to compete, and earn money. And another thing that comes with that is game developers need to put money into collegiate, so there's bigger prize pools so these people want to compete in collegiate and invest time versus going and just trying to find a team on the internet and grow and compete. And I think it's better personally for collegiate and esports growth for collegiate to be big, because it will start forming more solid teams, and you won't have as much of current gaming trend where there's roster changes all the time.
Right.
Can't really have that in collegiate. You have a stick a couple people, and off season tryouts, you have more people come in, people leaving, and that's more of something that I think will help professionalize and grow the esports industry as a whole. Because people have to remember too, a lot of people in gaming are a lot younger, and so there's a lot of immaturity that comes with that, and there's organizations out there that are very immature, and that's why you see organizations scam or do certain things, because they don't have a business background, or they don't have different things that where they have been taught not to do certain things or act a certain way. So those mistakes happen. So having a strong collegiate and having more people that are involved in business and for a long time get a part of esports, it'll start growing the industry. And esports is in a bubble. People have been saying that for years. One of my friends, Chris Cheney, who was creator of Infinite Esports, who owned Optic Gaming and Obey, he always talks about it, and he has great things and plans for esports and what he sees. He's have cool ventures coming soon. But it's one of those things that there's so much you could do with gaming. You could have hubs where random kids could come and learn from professionals. They could learn how to play. There's so many mainstream things you could do to make it more accessible and have more people do it. And it's something where right now people think the esports lifespan is like you turn 24, 25, you're done. They're like, oh, you can't play anymore.
And that could easily like one, that's a lie. Two, like talent can trump age by any means.
Yeah.
But
you're not in your prime.
Right. And then by the time, like, if collegiate and even as professional leagues are catching up to this and having a lot of sports therapy, recovery therapy, all that kind of stuff, as that starts getting to be more understood of what it takes to have a competitive program, you're going to see that age increase. I bet you start seeing professionals in their 30s
easily
in the next 5-6 years. Like you are, I believe, what's his name? Old Man Fear on EG, or he was on EG's Dota team. I think he was already over 30, and he was competing. He was coaching last I remember, but when he was competing, I believe he was already like 32, and that was a few years ago. So it's possible to be there. I think we're going to see more people at that age coming in. Now, we'll get back to Rainbow Six for now, but I'm going to be talking to you more about other things going on in esports. But thinking about collegiate Rainbow Six, not CR6, but collegiate as in general, you mentioned that you heard Face It was coming through with their Rainbow Six League, and that piqued your interest. I'm curious, what else was it other than like a prize pool and opportunity to play on a team that made you want to really consider your time for the Face It League in addition to the CEA League that you're playing in?
So it showed, like, to me, it showed Rainbow Six is really trying to grow their esports more and more. And that's something that made me fall in love with Rainbow Six. Is I don't know if people played in year one, but if you played in year one, you know what I'm talking about. The game was so broken and bugs, like worse than it is now. Like people can play now. I'm like, it's not
Mhm.
not even close to as bad. But Ubisoft stayed with it and kept putting more money into it. They've always stayed true, and I've never seen a game developer really do that. Normally, if the game's like so broken, not many people are playing it, numbers are low, they're giving up. They're not investing more money to make it work.
Right.
So to see that they dropped DSL and then they went after Face It, which is a huge organizer, in CS:GO and other esports titles, to then create collegiate, you can see the money. They're trying to put money into, they're trying to grow and help esports. So I saw Face It announce the collegiate, and I'm like, this is something cool. This is going to turn into something that's going to be mainstream, and I just want to be a part of it. you know and I had my connections with Brian, before, who played on the old ASU team, and I wanted to get involved. I wanted to be a part of something. The prize pool was cool, and I think the thing that made me excited about the prize pool was this is going to draw people in that are going to college that didn't care about collegiate before, because before it was more of, oh, is not as good of players, or if there are good players, like there's no point, you can't really compete. To I have personal friends now that are playing collegiate now. They see that, and that's what I think their idea behind it was, is if we put a prize pool, this is true with any
Well-
sport, if you put a prize pool, people will come.
Well, yeah. I mean, $10,000 to a college student is like
Yeah.
the world, especially the kids that are going to school off their own dime. They're paying their way through school. That $10,000 is going to be real nice. Or the 2,000, because it's split up.
Yeah.
But $2,000, that's potentially an entire semester's worth of tuition. So
Yeah, and that's just one league. There's so
yeah.
many more. It's really cool, and that's really cool that collegiate's doing that. Like you said, it is actually life changing. That could help someone pay bills 1 month, or do something tremendous that really helped them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll use a champion from Heroes of the Dorm from ASU, Michael Udall. Like, he is legit living it up as a content creator, and now he's coaching a revival, professional, air quotes, but professional Heroes of the Storm league that's started. That's like a self startup, but now he's coaching that. But he aimed to go pro in Dota. He ground that into the dirt, and like showed that he could transition sports, showed that he could be a valuable esports advocate. And I mean, he changed his life because he won Heroes of the Dorm. I believe that was like 2016. But he won Heroes of the Dorm there, and you could easily do the same thing depending on how Face It broadcasts and really sells itself with this league. I mean, Heroes of the Dorm was shown on ESPN. Like the final 4 team matches were shown on ESPN2. They had in-person LAN events for those matches, and like they were a destination to go to. If Face It treats it very much the same way, which it looks like, I'm projecting, I'm guessing that their grand finals for Face It, because it's TBD at the moment, is going to line up with an actual R6 Pro League major. So putting collegiate on the same stage as a major is a huge development, a huge step to say we actually want our collegiate league to blow up.
Exactly. I mean, and something you see from that, like you said with ESPN, this could be something from Ubisoft saying, hey, this is a way that we can get it in and maybe have a partnership deal with ESPN, kind of like how Overwatch League had or has still. And this is something that connects the two, because they love college stuff. ESPN, and they're a huge network, and that's something that could help grow the scene even more. So collegiate is something that I think it's just tremendous, because there's so many things that could help grow esports as a whole. Nothing but positive things. I honestly, I could be wrong, but I don't see anything really negative with having collegiate or promoting it or putting more into it. And I think just this first generation is I think prize pool is probably going to double, next time around. And, there's going to be a whole bunch of new expansions.
Yep.
And this first I heard about the Pro League thing, but I'm pretty sure that's something that they could probably do. And I think that will be huge for it as well, and get more people involved.
Yep. Exactly. And now my hope is that we don't have another Heroes of the Dorm event where it's like they do this big production for 3 years, and then when they cancel the pro league, they cancel the collegiate event out. They canceled Heroes of the Dorm, but they still have the TESPA league, and so there's not as much hype or anything around it. So I'm hoping that this professional collegiate league can sustain itself, because otherwise it just seems like a lot of like some TESPA gets some notoriety, but then it's mostly like the Riot collegiate stuff around League of Legends seems to be the only other one that gets a lot of notoriety in the space. So I'm excited to hear about this. If as a team that's participating in it, and as a former team owner in the pro scene, what are you looking for the league, the Face It League, to really excel at or really cater to this community?
I think it's what it's going to do is going to. Right now, people are upset currently with Ubisoft for the new season. The new season has the core of it. What they were trying to do is amazing, but the servers are bad. There's a whole bunch of things that are bad, and people are frustrated. And people are frustrated with Face It for certain things. I think this is something that is going to kind of ease the frustration and help people kind of get more passionate about Siege. And I think it's going to grow the casual player base. And I think that's something that's really excited for. And I think that's something that Face It's really trying to do, is grow that casual player base. And last time around, they did the rankings. Rainbow Six Siege entered as a tier 1 esport, which is really cool. And I think it's just going to grow from there. And you have these leagues that didn't really get as much notoriety, like CEA, but they're going to start to. This season they have, and I think next season they're going to continue to grow. And I think it's going to help the community as a whole, and it's going to help people that have invested a lot of time. And it's all going to be built on the backbone of Rainbow Six Siege and Face It.
Makes sense to me. I see it. I've seen it before. I've seen it happen. I'm excited for it. I love collegiate esports, so all the best wishes to Ubisoft and Face It to get it done. I think that's pretty much it for the episode. I mean, we've already been talking for almost an hour. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
No.
It goes by so fast.
So I'm going to rattle off some of the scores that I was able to track down for across the Invite League. We've got a 2-0 win for Goose Geese. I have no idea what school that is. They won 2 7-0 games on Villa and Clubhouse against LMU. I'm not familiar with LMU. That's the other problem with these leagues. I can never tell all the acronyms. So I'll have to get used to these again.
There's well over like thousands of schools in the United States. So we can't be expected to know all
and there's going to be overlap and everything. But I mean, two of the things that I'll call out. So we've got San Antonio and Texas Tech, both 2-0ing their opponents. What was that? That was something Tech University, gold team, Arkansas. I think it was Arkansas. But then UTSA also 2-0'd San Jose State University. So San Jose State, they've been around for a while. So but it's UTSA. I can't argue with that 2-0. Like,
because Texas is superior. I'll finish it for you. Texas is superior.
I can't argue that either. One of my big surprises for the week was UMBC, University of
it's something, isn't it like British Columbia or something?
Yeah, I want to say it's one of the British Columbia schools, but they 2-0'd University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Now,
no,
University,
it's not. It's University of Maryland, Baltimore County. We're wrong.
Gosh. But still, the fact that UNCCH lost 2-0 makes me want to dive into how their roster changed, because they were a competitive team last season. Now, but they were on that cusp of kind of breaking into that upper, like I'd say upper 20 teams, where we were looking at where the fallout and stats really came in. So they were on the verge. They were on the verge, and I think that what probably happened is that either the meta caught up to them or the roster changed too much, or some variance of the two. But to have lost 7-0 on Clubhouse and 7-2 on Oregon, tells me something wasn't working for them, and I'll have to reach out to them and see how things went. But UMBC also is surprising me because they weren't a competitive team from what I can remember. They were kind of middle of the pack, maybe lower middle of the pack in the spring last year. So see what has changed there. It will be interesting to find out. Elon University 2-0'd, what was it? SU Blue. I can't remember that, but Elon was one of our top teams. Elon was one of the top teams last season, and they 7-0'd on Villa and Oregon, so that was a quick match. So feel bad for SU Blue, but Elon is back. Elon was one of those teams that was like undefeated for 5-6 weeks, and then they dropped, and then I think there was like an upset somewhere along there, and then they lost momentum from there, and it was just kind of upsetting for them for sure. There we've got a new team coming out strong against Mizzou, MSU. So MSU surprised us last season. They were really a dark horse that came out. Like they didn't have a team previously, and this was their first league competing in CR6, I believe, last year, and they shocked me. They went deep into the playoffs and everything. I'm like, heck yeah, MSU or Mizzou coming out. But now Davenport, which I am not familiar with at all, 2-0'd them. 7-4 Clubhouse, 7-2 Coastline. Like that's impressive to me. And it'll again be one of those teams that we'll have to dive into and track down. But we've got some really interesting things going on there. I know Akron played. Where was Akron? This was Akron White. I don't know if that's their top team. I don't believe it is, because they tied another university that the acronym just is MU. It could be one of so many different schools with MU as its initial, but the fact that they tied 7-2 Coastline, they won, and then lost 7-2 on Oregon. Maryville University, that's who it is. And Maryville, again, a competitive team in tradition in all of collegiate esports, a very competitive team. Last year, I think they were starting to creep up in that middle of the pack mentality. Previous years, they were out before they even got to playoffs. So
yeah, I remember Maryville specifically. I couldn't tell you why, but in the inaugural CR6 league, we played against Maryville, and I think it was like one of our very first matches, and it was pretty easy. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude to them or anything, but they were a bunch of like high silvers, low golds, trying to figure out competitive, and that is perfectly fine. That is what collegiate is there for. Is to introduce people to the competitive scene so they can get more experience within it. They have slowly been I don't know if it's been change of players, if they've kept the same players, but they've slowly been getting better and better, which shows that they're actually taking the time to sit down and practice. So that's good on them.
What C. Jomo in chat, Elon University Rainbow Six captain, came out and said SU Blue were good sports, and as he said in chat, very early in the season, but with the new CEA format, I think it'll be very interesting how it shakes out. That's exactly the point. They've got new division breakdowns. They've got new scoring. They are going to be creating a whole different dynamic to what CEA was to last year. So I'm excited about that. And Maryville is exactly that. And I mean, as I pointed out, Maryville is a very competitive esports school, hands down. Like they are one of those dominant teams next to like Harrisburg University. And it wouldn't surprise me if they were able to invest more into their Rainbow Six roster this year. And now it's like, okay, we weren't competitive in this game. We want to be competitive in this game this year. So that's something I want to dive into and track down, because that's an interesting place for Maryville to be in, knowing that they haven't been competitive in a specific game, and see where they want to take that. So outside of that, I'm not sure what else there is to talk about. We can give Tanner a chance to shout out your teams, anything that you want to share, anything that you want to say about ASU, by all means, the floor is yours. Where people can contact you, that would be a great one.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the season. I'm looking forward to help growing ASU Sports. They've already done a tremendous job. I'm happy to just get in there. I am the secretary of the club. Next year, I'm going to be the vice president of the club when Jake, our president, graduates.
Nice.
And I'm excited to continue to grow and within this club and be a part of it. And I think it's a step forward. We have a center where we could have LAN events. And last season we had our whole team. They practice a little LAN center. They have nice PCs there. And sucks we can't get in there right now because of COVID.
Yep.
But I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm looking forward to helping this club grow and helping Collegiate grow the best I can with any of my past knowledge, any way I could help people. And you could find me at Sportrick on Twitter. Feel free to hit me up if anyone ever has questions or needs help with anything, and I'm more than happy to help people. So, I try to help people all the time. I try to, young people that I'm friends with that get into Rainbow Six or in esports and they make Challenger League or they do something where they sign a contract. I always try to help them and go over the contract with them. I've seen hundreds of contracts. If I ever get stuck on something, I always, my personal attorney, Justin Jacobson, who's almost done and about to publish his esports law book. I shoot over to him and help, and I try to help people because, it's never bad to ask for help. If you don't understand something, I always try to help people that don't understand certain stuff in esports.
I highly respect that you help your friends with their contracts and stuff, because I feel like that's a really big thing. I feel like that really needs to be addressed in the esports community right now. Is a lot of these young players get trapped in these contracts because they don't know what they're looking at. They're like, oh, hey, money to play video games? Yeah, sure. And they sign these contracts and they have no idea what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, where's all my money? It's like, oh, by the way, we're taking 70% of your winnings,
Yeah.
They're like,
and then
wait,
you're losing out because if you just did the winnings, you're making more than your salary. One of my friends, funny story, he thought he was stuck in a contract and everything like that. I looked at the contract. I'm like, dude, this contract would not even hold up in court. Like, it's not even like legally binded to anything. Like, I'm like, dude, you could just leave. And he just left. I'm like, yeah. And I was like, if they try to press on you, like, the judge would just throw this out. Like, it would never even happen.
That's
so
probably way more common than we think, too.
Yeah, it is. I guarantee it. Some contracts I've seen, I see some big orgs contract too. I'm like, dude, like they're like a 3-pager. I'm like, dude, we had a sorry, I didn't mean to curse. We had a 50 page. I caught myself. We had like a 50-pager contract, and in our contract too, one thing I always did at Disrupt is we never took any winnings out of anything we've ever had. I don't believe in it. I think if you played and you won, you deserve all the money. We didn't contribute to that in any way. You're the ones that actually did the real work. So we never took winnings from any team, but and we did things to help people like retirement clauses. We did things to help ensure that the players best success. And I think there's really good esports orgs out there that do that, and there's some that it's all about the esports org and helping them out. And I think that's needs to kind of shift ties and kind of be more for the player. And I think esports will get that way eventually.
I love it. What a great note to wrap up on, and a great PSA for people to check your contracts if you're getting these things. Get them looked at by a professional, or contact Tanner on Twitter and he'll look over it for you. So help each other out, have each other's backs, and all you students, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. Appreciate you all creating all this entertainment for us to talk about and for me to get excited about. So thanks everyone. That's the episode for the week. We will catch you same time next week, 8:30 PDT on Twitch, on Twitter /Periscope, and Facebook if you know me personally, and maybe LinkedIn if they ever get me approved. We'll see how that goes. But you can always reach out to me at Warlock Recall on Twitter and pretty much all social media for that matter. At SyntaxGG for my co-host. He's got a great YouTube channel helping people build their foundations, which I need to be watching more of. So we will have to get some gameplay sometime soon and show you just how terrible I am at this game, but how much I love losing at it. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. I appreciate you, and we will catch you next week. Take it easy, everybody.